All right. We are live. Welcome to episode 16. We got the OG crew back in here once again. Your original four, with a surprise appearance from Chef Billy. We thought Billy was going to have to be taking care of some family things. Turns out last minute, able to come in and join us. So we're very appreciative for that. Thank you.
Here with his real family.
Yeah.
Kids exist.
It's an interesting week, friends. It's been an interesting week. How's y'all's week gone? Oh, hey, you know what? Look at this.
Were you expecting an answer from chat or from us?
Both.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants
I also
to go
completely
first?
forgot to turn on my lights. There we go.
Who's had the most interesting week? Anyone?
I think I actually want to take the lead on this one.
Go
because,
on then.
There is a certain amount of congratulations in order because you kind of accidentally dropped it last week when you maybe shouldn't have done, but you do now have an official fancy esports job, correct?
Me? Yes.
Yeah.
Hello. I am.
So big congrats.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
I am a core talent agent person now. That's what I do. Yeah. It's not full time necessarily. It's more I get bonuses and stuff, but could turn into a cool full time role. And I work with Phil, or I'm technically his agent, which is
That has been so weird.
It is. Well, yesterday we did our first meeting when I got onboarded. I'm like going like in between friend mode and work mode was interesting. It was very interesting.
Oh
yeah.
I'm sure that's an interesting.
That wasn't the announcement I hinted at last week, though.
You did kind of accidentally drop that last week, though.
Oh,
yeah.
You made several gaffes last week. I was just going for the one that involved me specifically because.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, there's another announcement. I'm flat chatting us again, saying don't worry.
Thanks. Oh,
all right. So we can expect more announcements from Incendia after this podcast is over. That's basically
not directly after. I think it'll be closer to the next episode. Like, it won't be like as bad as the last one.
Okay.
I figured you were just waiting until 10 minutes after we're done for you to go ahead and post this on Twitter.
Oh no.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'll be nice. I guess I can go next since that kind of leads into things, right?
Yeah,
right,
we do have news.
I don't get to talk about how his weeks went, but I did start off that job. It's been pretty good. I've been working with a bunch of really cool esports talent and trying to get them work. So that's went well. And then what else did I do this week? Well, it's been a busy week because of some other things with that, but we can't disclose that. And then just had some really good conversations with some other people about some work for myself as well. So it's just been a good week, really.
Nice.
Nice.
I've been prepping
Billy,
for my first D&D session in like 20 years.
Ooh.
So that's been very exciting.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I'll be on Castles and Castles tomorrow. So.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to see that.
Ping the server when that's about to go live, which I guess is the other bit of news that actually isn't in the run of show because it's not technically a news item. Discord server is now. It might be worth mentioning. Discord server is now open for public access. We already have some very fun and friendly people in there. It's still fairly quiet for now, which I think is probably how we'd like it for at least the little while we ramp things up. But yeah, if you're not already in, go and pop into the server, get yourself some roles, and we'll go from there.
I mean, I actually had a chance to play with one of our new members today. I'm going to butcher the name, but Sachi. I think he's Swiss. Very cool guy. You can actually play across the regions on Overwatch 2, by the way. He was in Europe and I was playing here. You don't have to choose a region.
Hang on.
The ping is actually horrible.
Oh, yeah. I played with Class.
Yeah, we've played with Ocean.
Yeah.
You played with me on Overwatch too.
I don't remember.
I played with Ocean. I played with Classy. Yeah. That was back on the
very
first
relatable.
Beta, yes, definitely relatable.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So I think we've all had a pretty good week.
So does that mean it's news time? It's time to get some news.
It might be. Yeah.
I'm healthy now. I don't have pneumonia anymore.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes.
What a week.
That's the best news of the week right there.
With the awkward transition into that, we will get into our news here. First up is Fefe kind of getting a little upset that he doesn't get the love for Stream Companion stuff. Support a streamer title. or the role. He's got like one of the biggest followings in France, and he got absolutely snubbed for some people that ran away from Overwatch, and now all of a sudden new bright shiny ADHD addiction Adderall kids coming in. I want to be the role maker, and he's kind of pissed off, and I absolutely agree with him. I think that he absolutely got shit on there. So that's my role on that one.
I am tempted to agree with the fact that I think Feifei should have got selected.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm going with that is because his contributions to the Overwatch community is very, very positive, especially the French community, European community in general. And his numbers are good. His numbers are more than good enough for this. I mean,
which is why I have an asterisk next to small down in our
yeah.
I mean,
now. We worked with Feifei for the last round invitational, and his co-stream numbers brought the total numbers of the stream up a lot, and he worked very well with us. So I don't think there's a problem, with him being hard to work with either. He's very easy to work with. So I don't understand this one. I would have picked him. So it's just unlucky.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think we will never know the machinations of how these decisions are made. All we can really do is commiserate with community figures who we would like to see given a little more kudos and hope that they get that next time.
Yeah. All right. Should we move on to some more?
Definitely.
Sad news.
Sure.
So we've kind of been a little bit harsh on one of these. Let's talk with two coaches in the Overwatch scene will not be coaching for the next little while. One is said for the next little while, and one seemingly fully retiring. Which one are you pulling up first, Mr.
Amir is the first one pulled up.
Okay, so Amir is stepping down from coaching for the next little while. Has a little twit longer that you can read. I don't really want to talk about all the little reasons, myself. I don't think it's my place. I think just go and read it. What I will say is Amir is a very, very lovely guy. Talked with him on multiple times. I think that he's a very talented coach. I would have loved to see him get a chance in the Overwatch League, but more importantly, I think he's an important guy in the Tier 2 scene to have right now. And I think what I would have liked to see in Tier 2 this year was Amir with a really talented project that was backed and see what he could do with that and then see him in the league. I think that would have been really, really awesome. Unfortunately, doesn't look like that's going to be an option for now, but he's a talented guy. He's a very nice person. And I'm hoping he comes back to us soon enough.
Fingers crossed, and so he finds some sort of project that'll drag him back sooner rather than later.
He's just a talented guy. That one hurt me a little bit.
I agree on both counts. Coming from Uprising Academy, for those of you who aren't familiar, I know a lot of the coaches, you don't get their names very often, so who had great success through 2021. I mean,
he had some challenges. He had to work with some mixed roster. And you know what? That's a brilliant skill to have at an Overwatch League level, being able to work with people from multiple regions. So I would have liked to see him. I just would have liked to see him given a proper project with proper backing in Contenders or in Overwatch League. I don't really care which one. I just think he deserves backing. And there's another individual from the coaching scene stepping down from coaching for at least a while. It seems like it's going to be a while. And Animated from Europe. I am a big fan of Animated. He's, again, a very nice guy. I don't have quite a personal relationship with like I would. I feel more comfortable approaching Amir than Animated. But Animated is a good guy, good coach. Just got third with Equal Friend in Open Division, EMEA. Has always had talented results. Previously coached Samsung Morning Stars, I believe. Talented guy as well. It's a shame to lose him. But I think this is what happens when a lot of regions aren't back. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And I just think that not necessarily, not backed by Blizzard, but not backed by people. These are two individuals. If they were backed by people who supported them, they wouldn't be retiring. They need to be properly backed by an individual who has a little bit more of a professional outlook on things, and they could have probably still stayed in the same. And that's my little outlook on it. Very talented guys. I'm a big fan of Amir and Animated, and not just because of their coaching, but because of the way they are as humans as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not the first time you've brought up Amir or Animated without them being like explicitly brought up in Run of Show. So I think it's a fairly genuine appreciation for them there. But yeah, hopefully we get some recognition of their talent and they can come back and we'll see how things go from there, I guess.
Well, and I think this does have something to do with the lack of financial support. You know, when you start talking about backing, like, let's be real. I mean, it's people who basically, this is a full-time job. You have to put in the time of a full-time job without getting any of the compensation thereof. So, I mean, you can't. That's hard to sustain, to say the least. But that we'll get into
We'll talk about that later.
Exactly.
I
you took words out of my
on
mouth.
that.
We'll go down that rabbit hole a little bit later. But I think that was an important note to put in here when talking about some of these coaches retiring. Yeah, I mean, I think that has to be part of it. You got to take that into consideration. You got to put food on the table. But let's keep moving forward here through our news items as I bring up lower third that I actually had prepped. Look at me, I'm actually learning how to do this.
We've got to get you a Steam Deck. Somebody buy Jeff a Steam Deck.
Seriously, what? Working from Notepad that's not ideal? Like that's
No.
not the ideal way to produce. All right, well,
No.
all right. Well, moving forward, Up Academy. We kind of talked about their roster when they first made the moves, where they basically picked up all of Team Chaser, outside of who was Off was the returning member from Up Academy, I think, and then everybody else was basically Team Chaser. But
A mix of like Team Chaser and Hunters, really. Just like,
fair enough.
What their contract situations were.
Fair enough. And this is I mean, Team Chaser won Chinese Contenders in 2021. Up Academy participated in Chinese Contenders in 2021. Now they're moving to go play in Korea with this roster. So I think this is really good for them in a couple of ways, but most notably, you're going to have better competition, which is better all around for the players. Just to have more skilled opponents, more organized teams that they're playing against, which also with it will bring a little bit more notoriety to the league. Can really help some of these players get picked up for Overwatch League either later in the year for fills or for 2023. So good moves all around. I'm anxious to see what they bring to the table. I'm happy to see Aprita found a home. I mean, I don't think there was any doubt that Aprita would find a home somewhere. He's one of the most talented DPS players in the world, like just full stop. It was a shame what happened with Chengdu.
About Aprita.
Yeah.
Because Aprita's going to be going up against two players that, are going to challenge him, and he's sang in Top Dragon on that role. So that's going to be really interesting for him. Whereas if Aprita stayed in China, realistically, is there a player with a big amount of notoriety is going to challenge him and give him that standing that Aprita maybe couldn't have got before competing in China. But what this also means for China is that who's in China right now? We don't know many of the little players left there, right? So it's a chance for all the teams in China and players in China now to go, look, all the big teams are gone, all the big players are gone. I'm next. I'm the next best Chinese player. I'm the next guy. I'm the next gamer. I'm the next team. That's the idea. That's what they have their opportunity now.
I think there's a thread of that across all regions, because there was such a massive amount of rookies that got picked up this year. Yeah. But, I mean, China is a region that definitely deserves some love and cannot be overlooked as far as the talent they're bringing to the table. I think that would just be an absolute egregious sin by our community to not put some eyes on the Chinese region, because there's some phenomenal Overwatch players coming out of there. Just period.
Well, I think one of the things to consider is that we, I'm trying to put this in a sensitive way, like the Chinese scene is a little bit of a walled garden. Because that language barrier is there, and because of the controls that are put in place regarding what goes into and out of China through the internet, like we in the West really don't have good visibility outside of what is happening in Contenders, which is not currently running. So how would we know that? But there is an endemic scene. I believe China is one of the bigger viewership regions for Overwatch League.
I think it's the biggest.
I'm confident they are putting money in there from... sorry, I've just been distracted by something that I can see on the headset that chat can't see. Yeah. No, that's...
Oh, lovely.
Oh, yeah, a little bit distracted there on that one. Anyway.
Unfortunately, yeah.
What I was saying is, I'm confident there is money in the scene and there is activity in the scene. We just don't get to hear a lot about it. But as I'm currently talking, I'm going to segue us right into our next news item, which is an increasingly rare thing here was that we actually have some news coming out of the EMEA region. So a team that's near and dear to my heart because they gave me some pretty cool content opportunities back in the day. Sheer Cold founder Bucky Bear is stepping down. I believe removing themselves from the Overwatch community entirely, which is a shame. I got a lot of time for Bucky. They did a lot to get a lot of opportunities for the players in Sheer Cold and did a lot to make a good and respectable and frequently highly competitive team in Sheer Cold. There is some good continuity here, though, in that Thor, coach for Sheer Cold, is also stepping up to kind of the owner-manager role here. So yeah, some mixed news. Best of luck to Bucky in whatever they end up doing next. And I, for one, just happy to see Sheer Cold do something in the off season, right? Because I think if we went and looked through their Twitter, it's been a long time since their last substantive tweet. But they, I believe, are one of the teams that held on to a Contenders slot coming up for the summer series, which we should be getting into in a few minutes.
Indeed. It's always sad to see somebody go from the scene that's been around for quite a long time. But I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the next object on our news list, and that's Path to Pro looking for a project manager. And so with Dan's passing, I think that there's been a massive void that's been left in our community, and I think that they're reaching out and realizing that somebody's got to pick up the reins of this and take it and run. And we've actually talked amongst ourselves. Maybe one of us should do it. I don't know what the requirements are for it, but it is there. It's linked out in the Path to Pro area on Twitter, and they're looking for somebody high performing, passionate, and driven. So, if you're watching this, maybe you should give yourself a chance to take a look at it. Maybe it's me. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it is a very big opportunity, but I think it is a pretty thankless task. I think everything that goes wrong is automatically your fault. It's like being in the IT department at work, right? Nobody thinks about the IT department until stuff goes tits up, and then suddenly everybody wants the IT department's blood. So I think it's a challenging role, but man, the right person in that role could really do a lot.
I think it would be really important. What I will say is really encouraging is that it's not been someone promoted from internal. And the reason I say that is just because some of the points that we are going to talk about later on today is that I think it would be good to have a set of eyes from elsewhere. Yeah. I'd also be courteous because I think there is a problem, say, for example, and this is a point that I'm going to go in more depth later, is that a lot of the focus has been on North America from Overwatch Path to Pro. I would be shocked if anyone agreed otherwise. And you're completely fine if you're in the US saying to say, look, I think we deserve this support, and I agree with you. But in other regions, it's quite disturbing the lack of support that they've been getting. So what I would say is I hope that someone comes into the role externally with a global outlook on things, because I think that's the best thing for Overwatch and the best thing for Path to Pro. So that's something that I would look for in someone in this sort of role, and I hope that's what we get.
Fingers crossed, yeah.
I mean, I don't envy whoever takes this position, I will say. I mean, there's been a lot of backlash on Path to Pro over the past couple of years and the lack of support, and trying to manage that and couple that with like some of the things they talk about in this announcement, in this post here, is being able to communicate to stakeholders and risks and those things to the stakeholders of the company. I mean, like, so you're literally having to not only face the community and the teams and the managers that run Path to Pro and our point of view. But
that's a standard project manager and partnerships role, though, so that's expected.
I understand. I'm not saying it's outside the normal job description. I'm saying that's fucking tough as hell. And I don't envy whoever is going to be in that position. Having to keep both sides of that coin happy, I mean, seems like a near impossible task. And just like Phil was saying, as soon as something goes wrong, you're the sole person that is going to be facing the firing squad on that. So it's an incredible opportunity, and not just for an individual, but an opportunity for Path to Pro to see some change and to instill more support and more growth into this incredibly vital part of the Overwatch scene. But the difficulty that comes with it is equally as daunting. Validating that to a board like Activision sounds nightmarish, frankly.
I think the other thing that's worth mentioning here is that Dan was like very rightly very well respected in this role as a person who had a lot of passion and a lot of drive for this role, for this scene, for this game, for the players. And in the comments we're making here, we're not trying to take away from that in the slightest.
No way.
We just want to say that, like, even if you have all of those things going for you, it is still going to be very difficult to enact that kind of change. So you need to be like superhumanly driven to make this change.
Couldn't agree more.
On the subject of which, let's have a look at RookieWatch.
10 out of 10 segue, Phil. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 for a non sequitur segue, just to move us to something a little cheerier.
And of course, RookieWatch is our opportunity to try to highlight some of the graduates of Path to Pro, and watch them pop off in the bigs. Well, Ethan, we're starting with you.
Oh, hello. It's me again. I've picked a Korean main support player.
Actually, can I, Ethan? Sorry, I hate to interrupt. I genuinely do, but I have to say you have done a phenomenal job here of matching the color of your top to the color of the border that you are currently sat in.
It's so true.
It's very well matched.
Wait, what do you mean? On a stream?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Sorry, just occurred to me. Anyway, sorry. Please go on.
That's worked really well. It's brand management. I'm branding that fully fair. That's what it is. We've got to keep the colours.
Five head.
Yeah. So I picked a Korean main support player. Is anyone surprised? But it's not Joe.
Oh yeah.
It's Chio.
Screen.
Oh right. Oh shit. Which clip have you got up first for me, Mr. Bill Skunk? Because I asked for 2 clips.
King's Row is up first.
So the Dallas Fuel struggled in the first week of the Dallas Fuel struggled in week 1 of Mid-Season Madness qualifiers. They clearly needed some big changes. In week 2, their first game was against the Florida Mayhem, and I was very impressed by Chio's performance, because they were doing some very different things that you wouldn't typically see from a main support player. And a main support player like Chio is known for being like a little bit more passive, but very, very intelligent. And Chio was doing some really, really good things, played really, really well, and contributed to a massive snowball offense on King's Row, which is why I think you're saying King's Row clips.
No, my everything's just decided to chug.
Sag.
Yeah.
All right.
Chug.
But on King.
Oh.
Hey, we're only 16 episodes in. We're starting to learn. I'm starting to get it.
We're live.
We're live now.
We're live now.
Classic. Okay, so to summarize Ethan's point, he likes Chio. Good.
That's
Okay,
Chio
can I put a little bit more into it?
No.
We won't talk about the clips. We won't go over the clips, but what we will say is Chio put in a very incredible main support performance, the type of performance you need when your team just lost the previous 2 games in the last week, and it was a good performance to get a solid win over the Florida Mayhem with some really good Brigitte and Lucio play. Done, dusted, easy.
So,
I'm gonna clip to see if it'll work.
Oh.
There.
I just want to know why, you were like, oh, refresh the stream, we're going back. Like, I was trying to drink some iced coffee, man.
We're not here to make life easy for you. That's not what we're here for.
Well, joke's on you. Watch this. Are you ready for this? Just temporarily.
God.
Bang.
Off the rolls.
Oh,
there
I
it
see.
goes. Bye-bye.
There we go. Thank you. Well,
yeah.
The amazing disappearing Ethan.
Yes.
Right. So because Billy wasn't, we didn't think we were going to get Billy up until about 10 minutes before we went live. So Billy hasn't had a chance to put together a RookieWatch. So we're going to skip him. And
that was really impressive. I turned the camera on at the end. I was trying to like half of this in one go, so I turned the camera on so you could see the end of it.
I guess everybody needs to win every now and then, Ethan. Everybody needs to win. Those of you paying attention to social media may have seen the new signing for the London Spitfire, the much hyped, very famed Boneback coming in.
Oh, yes.
What was it? Neil? Is his name Neil O'Daniel or something like that?
Neil O'Jamie, I think.
Neil O'Jamie.
Yeah.
Is this going to work?
Yeah.
Why did this break? Why did this break?
That's unfortunate.
There it is. I have a backup version. There we go. It's supposed to be zoomed in more. I've got multiple of these captured.
It's fine. The point has been made. Yeah. So new DP, new support player coming in for the London Spitfire with a very interesting moustache and a very fetching pair of sunglasses there. Played Eichenwalde for them playing Zen. I thought put up a very strong showing for somebody who, is not a famous Zen player. More generally, I do. Obviously, it's Backbone. Of course, you weren't fooled for a second. None of us were. Especially not by that signing tweet that was made the other week. I think Backbone has come in under very difficult circumstances. We know that London as a team have not had the highest budget for players. And I think there was some head scratching going on when Backbone was signed because despite putting up a consistently very solid performance and being, as far as I can tell, a pretty chill guy, he just wasn't at the top of anybody's list for a DPS signing. And I think under those conditions, in that circumstance, he has come through and made a really, really strong showing here as a rookie. London
are like fifth in the league.
It's great. It's amazing.
They're fifth in the league, and they're only they're the same differential as Houston. Houston just have an extra league point from the kickoff clash. They're ahead of Atlanta and ahead of Toronto. I rated Toronto hardly no one else did, but I like to think that opinion matters. Atlanta was rated as a top 5 team by a lot of people, so good for London. They're fifth in the West right now, on course for mid-season madness. But well done to all the players. They've had a really good turnaround.
Yeah, really.
That team plays with a lot of identity as well. I really like it. They play the really London way.
Oh, I mean, the chatty meme has kind of just taken over. They haven't lost since that Atlanta game. That's that with a 3-2 Atlanta, and suddenly their confidence has been bolstered through the roof.
And I think it's also helped that the meta has swung a little bit in their favor as well, because it's let them play poker on a few maps.
I mean, but it hasn't even. They kind of helped. They did kind of define that in the first stage. In Kickoff Clash, the meta wasn't really leaning in their favor, and they went and kind of carved their own niche out of it, which I think is part of the identity that Ocean is talking about. And then now it absolutely has. I think now it has swung a bit in their favor, and they're looking strong, out of nowhere strong.
But it's not even like people like Hardy, for example, Backbone, who Phil was talking about. I remember watching the first week, where London weren't even getting really good results. Backbone was going on some weird off angles on May and creating space on May, playing her like a tank. I think is what they were going for. I don't know if that's what the actual intention was, but Backbone was doing some really cool things on May that no other May would really think to do. So they've got a lot of identity. So the coaching staff deserves a lot of praise for bringing that identity to the team.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. This brings up my pick for the week. I went for a little bit more straightforward type of play. This one coming from less than, about 15 hours ago. Coming out of Hangzhou Spark, Alpha Yi. Coming in here with an awesome 4K here in Map 5 versus Philadelphia. Almost, they were this close to reverse sweeping Philadelphia, which had been the second reverse sweep in a row, coming off of last week's game against the Valiant. But nevertheless, Alpha Yi just popped the fuck off, and almost single-handedly carried. You can see how close it is to the top of your screen. Unfortunately for the Spark, they're not able to pull this one out, but still just a sick display on Tracer here from Alpha Yi. Definitely a rookie to be keeping an eye on here as the season goes on.
Am I right in thinking, Jeff, Alpha Yi was in your rookies to watch thing at the start of the podcast?
Absolutely.
When I say not this podcast, but the podcast as a whole.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
Yeah, towards beginning of our tenure, when we first started.
Did you pick Alpha Yi as your main player, or did you pick one or two?
I think I had a couple, because I'm pretty sure Prita was in my
I went
list
with two. I picked
Patty
and Chaorong. I don't remember who your main one was. I think you might have went basic. I went proper Alpha E.
I think it was a Prida and Alpha E, if I'm remembering correctly.
A Prida,
There were the two.
Well,
that one went well for you, didn't it?
Well, yeah. That's not a Prida's fault, though, damn it. All right? Not a Prida's fault.
It's not.
He deserves to be in the league.
Not.
He does.
And quote me on that.
B-Tech Easter. That's a joke. I am stressing that is humour. I apologise.
Okay, let's now that we've covered news and we've covered Rookie Watch, let's actually get to the meat of today's episode, which I realise that other than the fact that it's in the show title and it's been in everything we've put on social media, we haven't actually discussed. Of course, back on Tuesday, the actual final format for this. I don't know if it's even fair to call it contenders level tournaments. The summer series, side A and side B, was announced, and we thought we would go over that and have a look at what that means for the different regions, and maybe hear from some community members as to what their thoughts are.
How do we want to do this? Do we want to do this region by region?
No, we
didn't plan that far ahead, Ethan.
We didn't plan that far ahead. This is just gonna be a little organic.
That's why I asked you now.
No, fair enough. I think first off, let's just go over a general rules formatting. But I think region by region is going to be the way to go, because that there are a little bit of difference in the rules and formatting depending on the region.
Right.
Which I think we'll start with North America. It's because
let's start with North America then. Let's do that.
Let's start with NA. Just quick rundown. People watching this podcast are probably very familiar with this format. Let's just give a quick rundown. So you had 32 teams coming out of Open Division were guaranteed access if they signed up. They are going to go alongside 32 other teams, 8 of which are going to be coming back from Contenders 2021. What was that list again? Ethan, help me out with that.
This is what I suspect. This
Odyssey,
is what I suspect
Wisp,
the list is.
Redbirds.
Let me get it. This is what I suspect the list is. I don't know now, just from little mumbling. We talked a lot today. Jesus, right, I'm in the group chat. Right, so DICE, we think, I don't know who's on the DICE roster. I think the DICE are retaining their spot. Redbirds, Wisp, and Altiora are 100% retaining their spots. I believe the roster that was previously with Solaris will be playing under Odyssey, the Odyssey branding that they previously played under beforehand. There is a Twitter account called Pirates in Pajamas that I believe is using the Drifters spot. I think Saints and Maryville kept their spot, Saints/Maryville, and Uprising Academy might be the 8th one. Those are the ones I suspect based on what I know and what's potentially publicly available. I'm sure some of our NA gamers will know more than I do, but this is what I think it is.
I heard some chatter in one of the Pat the Pro channels. I'm looking at it right now. Somebody said that UA had disbanded, and I'm looking to see if there's veracity to that or not.
No, they might have, because obviously Amir's retired, right, and Amir could have potentially stayed with UA if they were going to stay. So I don't know who that 8th spot is. Otherwise, I don't know if they were able to sell a spot or whatever. Or someone else picked that up. I don't have the answer, unfortunately.
Whoever would get that spot kind of still up in the air.
And in fairness, I say not sure on UA, not sure on Maryville, and I don't know who's on DICE's roster, if I'm being honest. So.
Do DICE know who's on DICE's roster?
From what
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think DICE's roster, from what I'm hearing, has changed too much. From last week.
That'll be a first.
Believe it or not, I know. But from talking to some coaches who've actually scrimmed them, it doesn't sound like their roster has changed too much from the last that we heard. So from a team that has had a bit of a revolving door.
The last that everyone's heard, if you look at their Wikipedia pages, nobody's on the roster.
Yeah.
So
they dropped all but 2, didn't they? I think.
Because Mozart, Aspen, but I think and Frosted were all playing, and Horvick were all playing in OD. And obviously that wouldn't be allowed. That would be against the rules. Yeah. So if they were signed to DICE and did that, that would be very naughty.
Yeah. So who knows? Genuinely, like,
And obviously Petal retired, so
yeah, Petal retired. Yeah.
I don't know who's on that
As
roster.
Ethan was saying, like if you look at the active roster on Wikipedia, it's just a header on a table, and that is it, with a real long list of ex-players.
That's not even the full list.
I was gonna say, I can pull that up real quick.
And then we're going to give Noise a fresh start this year, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, they have a chance, you know, to think, okay, look, we had loads of players last year, didn't quite get the results we wanted. Let's see what we can do this year, and let's see what they can do this year, right? Fresh start for them. We'll see who they pick up.
A little careful that this doesn't devolve into who's playing in Contenders.
Yeah. No, I was just looking for a general
Yeah.
overview of the 8 teams that are going to be alongside the other.
Yeah. So in theory, it's the 8 teams that were in Contenders at the end of the last proper Contenders season.
Right.
But obviously, a lot of stuff has changed in that time frame, and so this is all it's educated guesswork as to who is actually competing this season.
So with that was my fault. I apologize, Phil. I got us off on a bit of a tangent there. I'll take responsibility for that one. But okay, so on top of that, you're going to have a 64-team tournament. Essentially, they'll be competing for $50,000 for A sides and then $75,000 for B sides. B sides will be those same 8 contenders team that are in question will automatically get a chance to come back.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good time to discuss it. As we're just kind of going down your general rules here.
So
and then the rest are top 8 seeding, right? From
top
A sides.
Yeah,
top four,
top
12
4.
teams.
So we are guys going about this arse about tit. So the bigger picture here is that there are 2 tournaments that run one after the other. The first one being the A sides, the second being the B sides, and the A sides has implications for which teams get to compete in B sides. I think,
unless you're a previous contenders team, because then you're guaranteed
Yes.
spot.
Then you're guaranteed it.
Yeah,
which has pissed off some of the community.
I think it's poor. I think realistically, what we want in our contenders tournaments, and this is where this format is good because it opens up the community a little bit. I think that's good. I think it tries to stop some of the problems where, you know, players were like, "Oh, you're not content. Haven't got a contenders experience. We're not going to trial you," for example, right? It might stop some of those problems. Might. I don't know. I don't know what people's mentalities are around that. But what I do think is bad. I don't think you should be given 3 spots into B sides. I think you got to qualify for it. I think it's fair, you know, say the last 8 contenders teams, you get come to A sides. But I think the problem with this is when you want the best 12 teams, no matter what they were previously, the best 12 teams currently should be in B sides. I don't think it should matter what they previously did.
So Ethan, what is the criteria for these non-contenders teams to get into B sides?
So those top 8 are there. So they just got to be the top 4 out of the teams that weren't in contenders.
Right. Okay.
Now, my question is, so that brings us back to a point of assuming that the 64-team format is going to automatically yield your top 12 teams. One of the concerns that I've heard is, particularly with a 64-team single elimination bracket, is if somehow we get Redbirds versus Wisp in the round of 32 or the round of 16, one of those 2 teams is going to get knocked out. It's single elim, but you clearly have 2 of what should probably be considered 2 of the top teams in the tournament facing each other single elim prior to that top 12 formatting. And right now, I know these teams are just crossing their fingers that shit doesn't happen, that the seeding doesn't give you 2 of those contenders teams.
Are fine anyways. They're already confirmed into B sides.
Yeah, but that's my point. If we don't have those top 8 guaranteed into B sides, I don't think the A sides format is strong enough to guaranteed.
Just be seeded properly. So the 8 contenders teams won't play each other until top 8 then.
Do we trust that it's going to happen that way? I think that's.
Well, just seed it properly then. I don't see the issue there. Just seed it properly.
Okay, so moving forward, another topic on top of the guaranteed spots, which I have heard mixed arguments about. I've heard coaches saying that is absolute bullshit. That agree with your point 100%, Ocean. I've talked to coaches that are 100% on board with that.
Teams should be there. We want to see the best teams and contenders.
Whoever placed in top 12 should be the 12 that move on.
Yeah,
I think there's valid arguments for that. I've also heard another point of view on that. On those returning contenders, teams do deserve a little bit of a leg up. Like they just deserve to be some sort of reward, I guess, for lack of a better word coming to mind.
Here's my counter
for being competitive as they have been for the past year.
I mean, you could say that, but half of those spots were bought,
and then that's
a bigger problem. So you're buying, because obviously we know that some of the contenders teams have been able to play Overwatch 2 earlier than some of these open division teams. So they've got a competitive advantage that they paid for, and that's a problem.
So, but that's the players on that. I think that there's a question on do the players still deserve it now? Whether their spot was purchased, does that mean the players that are on those squads don't deserve those opportunities or those chances or to be in T2?
Because they didn't. The players didn't do it. Well, Gareth, by the way, we have a problem. Naked HD XYZ is back.
I'll go take care of it.
But
at least somebody's watching the podcast.
But I think the problem with this is that since contenders teams had early access to Overwatch 2, which is fair, the problem is that some of those spots were bought previously in the previous year. And I understand saying, look, you did well in the past year, but some of the teams that bought spots, realistically, did they get have a performance advantage? Like we talked about DICE. They didn't really get any great results. They struggled in third-party tournaments, and they couldn't get a consistent roster. Should they get early access? Should they get a competitive advantage? Probably not.
Well, and I think an argument to support your point of view on that was I was talking to a player that was saying that that's a lot of the rosters have changed. We're talking about an entirely new game, and we're talking about results from 9 months ago. So, I mean, it was hard to argue against those points.
Look.
So I'm
GeForce is an example. GeForce has been one of the best teams in NA.
Yeah,
they don't get contenders access. They don't get to be one of the top 8 teams, despite the fact that their results are probably better than half the contenders teams.
So my attitude to all of this is maybe a little bit nihilistic. Is that we just kind of need to get this one done.
Yeah,
I think it's a very difficult spot. It's a really hard spot.
It's very we have no way of guaranteeing that performance look at the way Shanghai Dragons are currently struggling slightly in 5v5. Like very dominant team last year, like the champions in the league, now with a less than optimal win rate in the league because of a transition to a new game, and granted other things, but the other things are important too, right? It's been a long time since the last competitive series of anything. This is going to be difficult. I think people are going to have, rightly, a lot of problems, a lot of complaints, but it gives us a ground floor. It means that for the next thing, we have a ranking, we have active teams, we know roughly how good those active teams are, and we can go from there. And I don't want to whitewash this and say, oh, just suck it up and get on with it. That's not what I want to hear.
I'm thankful because I actually quite like some of the new forward ideas, like an A side and a B side, right? One prize pool and a second prize pool.
Yeah.
Like you have to qualify for it with good results.
Yeah.
I like that. I really like that. And I'm really positive that we have contenders news finally. I'm just saying I agree with the format news. And I hope what they are going to do from the season is say, look, this is what we did until the end of 2022. We had difficult scenarios with the fact that we only really had half a year to work with. Next year, these are our plans. This is how we're going to get the best teams playing the best teams and the best Overwatch 2 action possible. And I believe that the Path to Pro team are going to be capable of that. I just don't really agree with some of the decisions that we've made in terms of, having the best teams against the best teams. That's what I want for the scene right now.
I think that's what everybody wants, though, Ethan, but it's just a matter of planning. That's the big thing right now, is that all the planning, they didn't know what was coming out when. And so, I mean, the people here in our ecosystem were basically holding our balls in our hands, waiting for some kind of crumb of evidence to come out to support that we're going forward with it. So, you know.
I wish I'd gotten your camera in time, Phil. That reaction was... Phil's looking around like, where are my balls? I just
want to know.
I know they're around here somewhere.
This fucking naughty bot really likes us. They're back.
Yeah.
Well, we might derailed me.
They're back. Sorry.
Yeah, we might have to look at getting some moderators if that keeps happening. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I wonder what their prices are like. I'm sorry.
I'm sure you can go back and click those links if you really don't value your computer's integrity.
Yeah, that would be smart.
No doubt. Okay, so let's. I think that's a good.
What I will say, it's cool that we are 12 days away. 12, 13 days away from the actual kickoff here of effectively Contenders.
Oh, no, really?
12 if you're counting today.
I think we're all excited, really.
Yeah.
Tier 2 Overwatch podcast is excited about Tier 2 Overwatch.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Okay, so let's. In talking about NA, I want to. And this is something that will kind of transcend regions for some part, assuming the rules correlate. But the number of teams. This is another point of contention that I got when asking around for. I talked to a few members of the community, just kind of trying to get opinions and kind of get a temp check on what's going on around the scene, how people are feeling about this. I got mixed responses on this. Honestly, mostly negative. But I heard some really good arguments for the other side of the coin. 64 teams going into this. And we kind of hinted at this at previous episodes. Like, if we're going to have 64 teams with 20, I believe, is that what we determined? It was 32.
24 random.
Plus 24 are like just random signups.
Yeah.
What was the point of open division?
Yep.
B, is this the best for the competitive integrity of the scene?
I have a note on this that I think is particularly interesting. So we had 8 teams throughout the entirety of EU and NA and Contenders last season. And my personal thought on that is 8 is too low. Because we had 10 in Korea, and 10 wasn't enough in Korea. There were still Genji. There were still two or three very, very good teams in Korea that are Contenders quality that weren't there. And ultimately now Genji aren't in Overwatch, right? So what I'm stating there is I think 8 is too small, but I also think 64 is way too many.
Yeah, and I think in future iterations of this, we will probably see the A side, B side thing maybe fade out for maybe a more traditional open division where top X get into trials or Contenders proper.
There's one note though. Mm-hmm. Single elim.
Single elim is rough, but also round of 64 double elim is a phenomenal amount of games. I realize it's rough, but you have to strike a balance between the competitive integrity aspect of giving teams a second chance versus expecting teams to play a dozen plus games to get through this. Well, then I don't think we
should have went for 64.
Well, and
why not just do the 40? Why not just do the 40? Give the 8 teams who are in Contenders buys in the first round.
Yeah, and that is an interesting question. Is why they added 24 teams? I mean, was it and like you say, 8? That means 8 teams get a bye through the first round, and you have 32 teams to start off the bracket with 8 teams that are waiting in the second round. That does seem to make more sense. And
then you maybe could have done double elim with 40. I think that's a little bit of a difference.
I think this is a product. The reason why we've got and also these people is because we are at a second phase in the beta with, in theory, more people and different people with access to it to play and then to come in.
Sure.
And so it's like, it's a shame you didn't get into the first Overwatch beta. Here is a small opportunity for you to come and try again. Is I think what it is.
I'm not against the idea. I'm just trying to offer solutions for the community, and I hope people can appreciate that.
And a couple of coaches I talked to are very much against the idea, so you wouldn't be alone even if you were.
No, I'm just trying to suggest options. I mean, I would love to work on Path to Pro a little bit more closely, right? Sure. I love working with teams, so I'm here for the players really, and that sort of idea.
Well, there's
so that's my idea. And Europe is similar to North America, right? Europe's the same rule set. So
yeah, once we start talking about EU, yeah, I was just thinking we could just pick out something that we haven't already discussed for NA. That some of these points are going to overlap, so that we're not rehashing the same topics for once we move through regions. So that's a lot of these topics we're talking about with NA are kind of universal. Okay, so talking about the 64 teams, I want to offer some points and then get y'all's thought. So one of the reasons I've heard in support of this was giving a lot of T3 players and players who are kind of unknown an opportunity to really shine through that may not have had that opportunity before. And
I think that's cool.
Really opening up the market for players to rise through the ranks, and then maybe a particular player or two does well and can get picked up to either one of the higher performing T3 teams, such as GeForce, or even move up into T2 teams. But
I think there's a problem here, though. I think we're missing a problem. Is that there was kind of a gatekeeping thing, right? Where you're just picking teams, of that previous experience.
Well, and that's what
the same people are still in charge of these teams. They're going to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter on that contenders point.
So it doesn't stop the gatekeeping.
Well, depends who's making the decisions, who's picking up these players. That's what it depends to me. And for me, when I'm thinking about this, I could be completely wrong. People could see a performance in Tier 3 and pick them up. But I would also say that how many people from GeForce got picked up in the off season?
0.
1.
Oh,
Magic Maple.
1 Maple.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah.
1. So there's 1. That's a problem. And the second thing with that is it's
asterisks. You are talking about off season.
Yes, but yeah, I'm aware. But GeForce are performing better than contenders teams.
Right.
So I think that's a thing, and it's still the same people who are in charge of rosters. I think realistically, the only people who went and picked out weird people that we know. I think that Redbirds, when they picked up Lawyer, was an interesting shot, and
Sure.
Echo as well. Players who were definitely Tier 2 level, but not quite cemented in Tier 2 level. I think there was, what I've heard from this Pirates and Pajamas roster is that they've been trialing some players, from Tier 3, so that's positive news. But I think that majority, some of the people who are still up there, are the same people making the decisions. So are they still going to ignore Tier 3 talent? Maybe. I don't know.
They can't anymore. There's too much T2 talents that's been sniped. Straight up. A lot of these teams have lost. Yeah. With RuPaul moving up and Dove and Wub and some of these players that we didn't really expect to move up as quickly as they did. We kind of all expected the AT squad to get picked up. The Redbird squad towards the end of 2021. A lot of those players have been around for a long time, and we were going, okay, that makes sense. But I think some of these other players, Dove's been grinding forever. I don't mean that he hasn't been playing for a while, but I think there were other pickups that were less expected that are going to shake up. NA kind of got just stripped clean. I think is the point.
We'll talk about some of the reasons why that happened. Just one more on NA. Can we? No. I'll wait until another region to kind of discuss why I think a lot of NA talent.
I'm assuming you're alluding to visa troubles.
Not just visa troubles. I think that. So when they did, actually, since we could talk about when the Path to Pro announcement happened, it was all NA. It was they announced that. They said they didn't announce a date with no time, right? And then it was only that date in NA. So they are clearly more focused on the NA scene. And I know they're based in North America, so that makes a bit more sense. But then also you look marketing-wise, right? What has Korea got marketing-wise from Path to Pro? Not much. It's mostly community-based. Yeah. And Korea's been probably the biggest source of talent. Actually, most definitely the biggest source of talent. And I work in Korea, so you're fair enough to call me biased, but I think they probably deserve the same amount of resources in North America. And China is one of the biggest viewer bases for Overwatch.
You might have a better insight into this than I do. My expectation is that the money here isn't being spent to advertise or promote Korean contenders to English language audiences. We're not paying to move, Chinese players, particularly promoting them over here.
11 or 12 teams based in North America. You need Western marketing to get picked up in the Overwatch League. That's the problem.
I think there is more opportunity, but if we still have, I always forget these when I count them out: Chengdu, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, Korea, and then
Shanghai.
Shanghai. Why do I always forget Shanghai?
There's
I have
5
no
teams
idea.
in APAC,
Yeah,
and the rest of them are mostly Western based, correct?
Yeah. True.
That's 15 to 5. Western marketing is essential.
But we are.
Research.
I think we're talking about two very separate audiences, because I think that as nice as it would be that, like, you know, oh, such and such a Korean player has a really big following here in NA, therefore we're going to sign them. I don't think that is as on the radar as such and such a player is mechanically very good, or we know they're a good IGL, or they're good at whatever makes them a good player. Like, I don't feel like the advertising a player as a personality is as big a part of them getting picked up over here as their mechanical performance.
But it's a combination of things like Visa, your marketability in the West, the support that the Western, NA teams ideally, I mean, not financially, NA teams don't get as much support as Korean teams because the organizations in Korea are bigger. I'm sorry, T1 is bigger than West, no offense, right? You're going to have to accept that one.
Damn it.
But it's also an academy team.
Yeah, right? You're going to get more resources in Korea financially. But in terms of, even reading the Path to Pro announcement, we still don't know how the qualification for B-Sides Korea fully works based on that announcement. It was very, very cryptic. But NA got this full passage. And that sort of support is what I'm talking about. Whereas there shouldn't be that sort of confusion in the region. Those little things are adding up. And I think that needs looked at.
Well, let's I want to steer us back to the original point that was the jumping off for this in talking about the number of teams, because we were talking about the gatekeeping with it all and ideally of new talent getting picked up. But there's also I heard...
we have Robo Jeff. Is that on my end or Jeff's end?
Uh-oh.
I got Jeff normal. I got normal Jeff.
Okay.
Oh, that's on my end then. Apologies.
I heard concerns on this already about burnout, and a lot, even just with single elim. This is something you were alluding to before, Phil. That this is already a lot of games to be played. If we pull up our schedule here on screen, this is the NA schedule. You're going to have games starting on, this is a Wednesday, I believe, is 7/13. And then, I mean, it's 3 days back to back, all double elim to get down to basically top 8. And then once you're in top 8, it's like upper bracket round 1 and on the 25th, then round 2 on the 26th. And then you have 5 days to work through your top 8. But going from 64 to that top 8 is 3 days of games. And the timing on this it can also be a little wonky, particularly when we're talking about some EU stuff. This is a little bit of the crossover, but talking about, I heard concerns that this is hard on the people it's supposed to be supporting, on the younger players and the people who can't make it work for the time slots that they have put forth. So we're looking at NA, that seems, it's 5 p.m. Pacific, so that's okay. But when you start talking about EU times, like there's the crossover here is going to be horrible. And so playing during the middle of the week, it just seems really, really tough. So I've seen a lot of concerns on that. Any additional thoughts on what seems to be a bit of a huge grind to get this 64 team bracket down into something manageable?
It's difficult. It's so difficult because they have to work 5 different regions in. Arguably, it should be more than 5 regions that they have to work with, but they have to work around Overwatch League, and it is a difficult one. It's a really, really difficult one, because obviously they're trying to avoid having to play 6 games a day, that sort of thing.
Right.
They've got a lot of different challenges. I'm hoping that this cleans up after this year. I think next year is going to be really, really important. I think this year is going to be about setup, and I think people are going to have to accept that. including myself. And I'm going to still be a little bit salty, but I think I'll be able to accept the setup myself as well.
It makes sense. Growing pains.
Just as a point of interest, as I navigated over to Game Battles to see what information was available, NA Summer Series A sides currently oversubscribed, 65 out of 64 teams.
What?
Is that one of the caster? Is that the caster team? Is that us? We're the 65th team. The winner of A sides has to play us.
I don't know,
God.
But that can of Sprite MVP.
What a waste of time for that team.
We are actually in the winners. We are in the grand finals already. They got to play us.
It's this can of Sprite.
We managed to. I was like, wait, how have you zoomed in on my can of Sprite? It's not. That's just me being dumb. Yeah, we've actually introduced an overflow error by assigning ourselves to 65th position. We're actually in first position. So good luck, everybody.
We're here to break it. We're here to break the system.
Yeah, apologies. I seem to be having some internet issues here. I don't know if that's affecting my outgoing audio, but I am
it's not
losing
outgoing.
audio here.
No, you seem fine on our end, so you're just going to have to muscle through on your end. I'm sorry, bud.
I'll see what I can do.
Okay, so I think final general point, and then we'll kind of zoom in on a couple of different talking points for the regions. But final general point, I think that's worth addressing is the map pool. So we've talked about the monstrous amount of teams, the brutal schedule, interesting bracket. Let's talk about these maps. So this got publicly released. Let's see if I can actually. This is good enough. It's not ideal, but here we'll give it a go. So I wish it was full screen on your screen, friends, but this will have to do. It's every map in the game, even maps that have not been released yet. Now, yeah. I mean, logically, this doesn't make sense. And you know, we've had friends come in and be like, "Hey, like, there's no way that you're gonna play, you know, Rialto and what was one of the other big ones? It's not
Numbani.
Numbani was the one I was thinking of. I wanted to say Gibraltar. I was like, wait, no, that's in the map pool, or that's in the beta. But yeah. Numbani, these traditional Overwatch 1 maps that are not in the beta at all. But then also things like Portugal that hasn't even been announced yet publicly.
I think like people have been freaking out about this image, but obviously we can't see it on screen here. If you zoom in at the bottom of the image, it does explicitly say, I'm going to get the exact wording up myself.
Maps
here.
that are not featured in the beta.
Featured in the beta will be unavailable for play. So I think it is more maps than they were expecting. I think the maths was, according to our friend with a little more information than us, they were kind of expecting 13 maps. That graphic makes it look like 21 maps. It is actually 17 maps. So it's still more than they were expecting, and it is additional work that they've got to do to compete on these maps. But it's not quite as bad as it could have been. It was scrabbling for silver linings here, but it could have been worse.
Go ahead, Ocean.
But I think the problem is it came out 2 weeks before.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's why. If they were told 70 maps a week and a half ago, close to a month before, Contenders, I'd be like, yeah, that's fine, right? But 2 weeks or so to practice 70 maps is quite jarring.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, and I think a lot of the concern, or at least some of the concern I've heard, was what if these maps become available in the beta?
Then we're in trouble.
What if they decide to drop Rialto and Numbani or even Portugal into the beta during this time frame? That they have to be prepared for these kind of contingencies, and that the communication on this has been so poor, and that the wording on that is not that maps that are not currently in the beta or that are not in the beta as of this moment, but just that if they're not available in the beta, then we're not going to play them. There's no communication on what's going to be in the beta. There's no communication that this is going to be the exact and only thing we're going to see. You know, or there's not going to be any updates to it, you know, for this time frame. I mean, and Contenders is on OPR as well, right? So that's there's that kind of contingency, you know, as far as Junker Queen and even Paraiso. I just wanted to call it Rio, but I'll actually call it its official name. So is that part of it? Is available in the beta? Does that count for OPR? or is that talking about live beta? And that's
well, so the early rounds have been playing on live beta, so I'd assume it's live beta. That's
I
my
think all of
assumption.
is it up to the round of 16, or is it all of A sides are on the beta?
I think it's round to 60. I think that's right.
okay. It's not
I
on
will
OPR.
go-
They're just on open beta access. Yeah, because they didn't give OPR access to everybody that qualified in top 32. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I know was another point of contention here for OD teams.
Yes, like that is something we could talk about as well.
Yeah,
because there
I
was.
think that's too many people in OPR, to be honest. So
Of course,
I don't really think there's much to discuss there. I think that'll get streamlined later on. I think that's something you have to expect later on.
No.
I don't think
No.
there's
That
much
was not
to
my
talk
thinking.
about here.
My thinking was that the teams that were guaranteed access to the beta didn't get it until the beta was publicly announced, as opposed to having some sort of early access to it, which I think could have been doable. I mean, perhaps the beta just wasn't ready yet. Perhaps it just straight up was not ready to go live yet.
I mean, sure, but no. Well, look, I'd say sure if it wasn't advertised differently. For OD, it pretty much said you get the beta early. That was the assumption based on OD. That's why so many there's a team called Playing for Access. Right, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's where the problem is. I think if it was communicated better, there wouldn't be a problem here. But I feel like because of the poor communication, I think teams were expecting earlier access than they got.
And I think that kind of brings up something I was thinking about with the map pool as well, which is why I brought it up. Better communication and managing expectations going forward. I think this is crucial. And I think a lesson that I don't know how they haven't learned this yet. But the communication needs to be clearer, and they need to stick by it. It's the expectations have not been managed very well, and I think that's generated a lot of frustration with the Path to Pro community.
I think personally, I could maybe give them a pass this time. I think the next series that we have that's similar to this A and B side stuff has got to be better communication-wise. Obviously, the Path to Pro teams had some difficulties with Dan. So I'm prepared to say, look, communication wasn't great this time around, but it can be fixed. But I also still don't think the communication has been acceptable. Do you guys mind if I use that as a segue to talk about Contenders Australia?
Yeah, I think it's definitely time to move on because So NA EU is essentially the same format, right?
Yeah.
I want to move on to Contenders Australia, though.
Yeah. So let's talk about the differences between the rule set we've just been talking about and what they're doing different in the other three regions.
Well, there's a problem. So if you looked at the Path to Pro announcement, Australia's just wrong. It's just incorrect. So for example, the A sides for Contenders Australia does not have a prize pool. Key note. Says 25k though, that's a lie. Not necessarily a lie. So A sides does not have a prize pool. Instead, there are technically instead of two big events, there are 4 tinier events. A sides qualifies you for B sides, which does have a 25k prize pool, and this is known as Event 1. There are none of the Contenders teams in A sides, as far as I'm concerned, for A sides for Australia, and it's just to fill the last 2 spots of B sides. Top 2 get B side slots. And then there's going to be Event 2, which is another A sides to confirm B sides, I believe.
That's a weird
format. Okay, so a bit of a change in format from NA and EMEA.
And I know this is the case because reasons. Move on. Just say that they got it on the website, and it is a different format. So don't be scared when you see that.
Yeah.
All right.
What I will say is, hey, say there are Contenders teams whose rosters you would like to know. You can find those on Game Battles, and I have just found out one of the rosters I was interested in, and who's playing.
Which one?
Oh yeah. Anything you can disclose?
I mean, it's public knowledge.
Public information.
It's public information,
you
but
want
also
to talk about. That's not quite what I meant.
No, I don't want it, but it's there if you are interested. You can go through everybody that's currently signed up on Game Battles.
Right.
So that's fun.
I just want to know which one piqued your interest because we were talking about this earlier.
That's a good.
Yeah,
that's
well,
a good thing
you guys can know, but the chat will. I don't want to preempt a roster announcement.
That's a good reason to do that.
Yeah. So let's move on and talk about South Korea.
That's interesting.
What's that?
It is, and he's right to be interested.
Yes.
I'm reacting.
I have just sent Ethan the link, which is making for great podcast content.
Oh yes, definitely. So the South Korea format is confusing to say the least.
Do you want me to talk about it?
Please enlighten us.
Well, I mean, it's round robin to qualify with top two. There's two round robin groups to make it into Summer Series. One round robin group to qualify for the second round robin group that qualifies you for Summer Series A-sides.
Let's get the explanation.
Go to Wikipedia. Go to Korea A-sides for Wikipedia. It's better, okay?
Okay. Continue.
Are you on
not a fantastic explanation.
That was not.
I want you to go there. I want you to go to round 1.
I'm working on it. But while I'm doing that, why don't you elaborate?
So A-side has 3 rounds. Each of them are one game. So the first round is, it's all single elimination, but it's essentially all teams from thingy thing, open division, etc., including open test, including Simpressa Gaming, which is a lot of people, XGenG, players to be excited by, Roxanne and Addy, and Fagwanar is also here. So that's a little note. So they're all playing each other. Then in the second round of competition, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the contenders teams from last season come into play. So they'll come in. This is currently WGS Phoenix, Team Diamond, Starlight Gaming, or SLT, Incendia Evolution, JNGK, and UPA, Guangzhou's Academy team. Ultra Prime Academies. Yeah. So they're all coming in the next round, and they play one game against teams from the previous round, and then they qualify for round 3. Round 3 then is 16 teams. So essentially, you're round of 16. You win your game. You qualify for the top 8 and go into a double elimination bracket for A sides. There you go.
Oh yeah, not confusing at all.
I have 2 observations that are only tangentially related that I still want to bring up. Firstly, take me off the screen. Let's go back to... I looked at the wrong window. Let's go back to the Wikipedia. Can you just show people the logo for the team YA? Because that is one of the best logos I've ever seen. If you scroll down a ways in top 15...
It was top 15? It was that... Okay.
Oh, sorry, in round 1. Go to round 1 tab.
Yeah, I'm on round 1 tab.
Oh, participants...
It just takes a second to fill in.
Oh, okay, there we go. Fantastic logo. Love it. Would change absolutely nothing about it. Secondly, look who is the last listed player for the team players.
Whoa!
Yeah, so we haven't got that on screen. So Slime is playing for them.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Holy shit.
He's the third slot in a support line, so what playtime he gets, who knows? But yeah, he's on a team.
And then, so what I want to know is, you'll note in A sides, right? So you'll notice I think there's 12 teams in B sides, but you notice here it says the top 4 teams get in the B sides. And you're like, okay, how does that work? There's 12 teams in B sides. How do the other qualifications work? I'm working in the Contenders career region a little bit. I don't know.
That's a good start.
So this is what I mean, where at least you guys have clear communication and NIU and what's going on. Because obviously the Australian announcement was wrong, and Korea is still pretty unclear.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
This is a very wacky format. Who are these guys? What is this red sword on fire logo? I don't know about.
What is that that's inflamed? Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, that is weird. That's weird.
So that's in San Diego Evolution. They're kind of cool. Cool roster.
Yeah.
They got Enakas. He's cool.
I heard they lost the top dragon though, so I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
Top Dragon's loan contract ran out. He went back to Gen G, and now he's on Talon. We progressed him.
No, we're just teasing. No, Inakas is an awesome pickup. Like I'm looking forward to it.
Inakas is back at San Diego, so it's gonna be interesting.
Anyway, sorry to derail, but I'm sorry. This format is confusing as shit.
Yeah.
Good luck to my content team.
Yeah, it's. I think it is emblematic of a region that is more used to dealing with varying formats. Like, we are properly indoctrinated to double limb is the best only format that must ever be observed ever. Anything else is anathema.
Like our group stages over here.
Yeah, group stages are fine. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that this kind of format is more common in other esports and in meat space sports as well. Sure. Like, I can't imagine that this is a thing that has been invented here and now specifically for this. It's got to have been based on something.
So there's one thing that confuses me even more. So there's 3 rounds that dictate who gets into the top 8 to play the double elim. So if you look at the Path to Pro schedule for Korea, you'll notice that there's the 18th and the 19th, and then there's a break. What? That doesn't make sense. There's 3 rounds. Are we playing 1 game a day, or what's the plan? I don't.
We can only ask questions at this point, really. I wondered if this was a broadcast schedule rather than a game schedule. No, because it actually lists. Actually lists specific times, and actually for the NA schedule, it says where games aren't being streamed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a bit wacky.
Yeah.
Now, I can understand. Now, you do bring up a valid point with, perhaps this kind of format is more common in APAC region across other titles and perhaps even meat sports. But they keep changing it in Overwatch like every season. I don't even know what to say about this. Like they went from like the step ladder format last year.
I liked it.
I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm just saying they keep changing it so much. It's making it more difficult for the Western audience to grip onto this. It is difficult to understand what the stakes are of the match, who's actually moving forward, who's on top, like what teams we should be paying attention to. All of these things just make it more and more difficult for a Western audience to grip onto this.
I had some notes because I really liked the format last season. I really liked it. The only thing I thought was wrong was there was only 10 teams. I thought there should have been 12. I thought there should be 6 teams in each group, but we'll see. I don't know.
Okay, so that's, unless anybody has any other thoughts on Korea in this wacky format?
0 thoughts about anything, frankly.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Sure. I think we just got China left, right?
Yeah.
I need to do some research on this format.
So China, I think the most interesting thing we can say about China is it is a notably much later start date than everything else. So that actually doesn't kick off until August. And I believe like second or maybe first or second week in August. So that's happening a few weeks.
Interesting thing to note as well. So it says there's no broadcast here. I believe we think there's going to be a broadcast for China, but it's not going to be at the same start time as the games. It's going to be recorded and posted.
That was pretty common with Chinese contenders.
That's what we've seen before.
That's how it's happened.
That's why we're suggesting that.
The entire time that Chinese contenders have been broadcast in the West, and I was in like season 3, like one of the early seasons. It was all done on VOD because getting a reliable feed out from China to an American broadcast is difficult. So they just upload the VODs and go from that, which is unfortunate. I feel for people like Kenobi, who is like a powerhouse of knowledge on the Chinese scene, trying to watch these games like broadcast in a language they can watch, having had to follow Contenders China because he wanted to know what was happening and knowing what all the games were going to do ahead of time. But right now, you don't really have a way around that.
So according to this announcement, unless I'm missing something has changed, this says the tournament date, it does start on July 15th.
Huh?
So, yeah, just in the original Summer Series announcement, when under China, it does have their start date is 7/15 and runs through August 7th. So they have it running a little bit over a week later, but the start day is within 2 days of NA and EU. Now, I may have to see if I cross verify this.
Given that original Path to Pro announcement being completely incorrect for Australia,
and that's what I'm just cross-referencing here now with the schedule that was posted on the other screen, and this is what shows A-side starting on the 3rd of August and running through the 7th of August, and then B-side's not starting until September.
Yeah.
I think that's closer. Should we? You know what? Look what Liquipedia said. Liquipedia says 15th of July as well, though. Uh-oh.
See, now here we're going back into communication issues.
Yeah.
Like these things should be
How do
clear.
we support Contenders China? How do we support it? It's really difficult. So that's something that
Especially
we need to try and pass back to the community and say, look, this is what we can do to support other regions.
Yeah.
Especially since there's no planned broadcast, at least as of this release and according to this document, which makes me think if somehow we do manage to get an English broadcast of Chinese Contenders, that it might be haphazard, that it's not something that was actually appropriately planned for, which I think is also a little bit egregious for the scene, a scene that deserves its fair share of attention and coverage. When we saw that at the end of last season, where the regular season wasn't broadcast, we only got like the playoffs for Contenders China for the last half of 2021. So
yeah, I think there are issues unrelated to the way in which Path to Pro is being run around why we didn't get a regular season broadcast of that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that might be a third-party issue, but that's me.
There's a lot of moving parts
me with
there.
a finger in the air.
Yeah. No, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. Just more to say this region deserves more support and more planning and better communication all around. I wish I knew more.
I think what I would like to say is when I was saying about Europe and North America having a lot more transparency, and even the transparency there hasn't been really great. I see what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
like this is a bit of a problem, especially coming from. I'm working in Contenders Korea next season, with the Incendia project, and another region as well. I'll just as well say that. It's quite difficult for me to accept that. I'm gonna have to suck it up eventually, but. I think that the global support needs to be better, and that's one key factor that I think that we need to improve on 100% going into 2023.
One thing I would like to point out before we step away from this is just that the prize pools for South Korea and China, at least according to this original announcement that was released on June 21st, are higher than the prize pool for NA in Europe. They are offering $75,000 USD prize pools for both Series A and Series B, which is 25,000 higher total than NA and EU.
I think personally, that makes sense because before this year, most of the Overwatch League talent came from Korea and China. I think now, if you look at it and look at the NA talent that's coming this year, then maybe you could say NA probably could get a bigger prize pool as well. That would make sense. And I think that would be a fair argument. But I definitely see why they've got slightly larger prize pools.
I mean, that's across the board, prize pools are pretty good. I mean, you're talking about $150,000.
Oh, no, I'm very happy with them. And I'm very happy with A and B side's idea. I think it's a good concept.
Globally, it's 1.3 million.
Wow. That puts that in perspective. So at least Blizzard are putting their wallet into it. Like, that's a good start. As far as that's concerned, as far as prize pools are concerned, that's a really good start.
And I think we're all just happy to see that we're getting some contenders this year. I like the A and B side idea, so that you give teams a little bit of security. You can play in A and B. You have an option. You get the results to play 2 contender seasons in a row. But we've taken out this idea: if you qualify once, you're in there for like a couple of months, right?
Right.
you still got to go and get the results, but you still got the chance to play multiple seasons in a row. I think that's good. I think that's a really good idea. I think we talked about some of the criticisms we have of the format, but how great is it to have contenders back?
Oh yeah, I think we're doing a lot of what you might unfairly call nitpicking, which what we're really doing is we are raising concerns that we have about what impact this will have on the community.
And what concerns the community has.
Yeah.
And trying
but I
to...
think,
trying to give a voice to some of those opinions and some of the concerns that we've seen raised around the community. Is some of the things
I was going to button all of this by saying, like, I still think this is majority positive. Like, I think, like, big, substantial prize pools, a known structure for the tournament itself, some strange things happening because we are in effectively a whole new game where we don't know how performance from the previous years and the previous game is going to transfer over to this. I think it's right and natural to have some questions about how that's been done. Ultimately, we're not the ones that have the constraints on us on how these decisions need to be made. And so I'm confident there will be a good reason for a lot of these things. And at the end of the day, yay, contenders. Our podcast has a purpose again.
Damn right. And also, there's a chance for these things to change. There's a chance for, it's a new slate, so they're trying some things. This didn't work. Whatever, 64 teams is too many. Or, there probably should have been more lead-up time for having access to the beta and being able to properly practice the same way that the players that had access to OPR did. Like, those are valid concerns. And the timing might be, the timing is some, things like that to where it's tough on the younger players or anybody who's got a full-time job and trying to play during the week and try to balance that. All very, very valid concerns, but there's time to change those things moving forward as this progresses. And hopefully, with any luck, things will get smoother and more streamlined as we move forward.
Yeah. I think, one of the things that we're excited for is we get to make a little bit more content, right? We have a lot more things to talk about, right? We kind of been feasting off of third-party stuff, so it's going to be really interesting now to trying to get into the meat of things.
To see if we can keep up, because holy crap, there is a lot to cover in the next couple of months. Yeah,
there's other events happening in the next couple of months, and
we have high aspirations, friends. We there's a lot we want to do. For this upcoming summer series and want to be fair to all regions and try to get some info out there on all regions and all these players that deserve that spotlight. So keep your eyes open. Hopefully we'll be able to juggle it all and find a good balance because we want to do it all, right? Like it's we want to highlight every roster, every player, every match. Like the aspirations are big, but hey, you know what? You gotta aim high. So I'm confident we'll have a good amount of stuff coming.
The more the community supports us, the more we can give back as well. The more the platform that we
throw money at us. Throw money at us.
That's not what I said. No. The more of the platform we have to talk about some of these criticisms we have of formats, and the more platform we have to support these players and coaches and staff, the better. So that's just a little note that I have. The bigger the platform, the bigger support you're going to get from us.
To piggyback off of that and kind of go the other direction, I also want to extend some appreciation to everybody out there who is willing to talk about this with me today.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to bring names into this because that was not the point to show an individual's perspective, but more to offer, the opinions on this and kind of get the temp check in the scene. So everybody that I talked with, thank you so much. I value each and every one of y'all's opinions so highly. I may not have covered every aspect that was spoken of, and I apologize for that, but I want to give a voice to those opinions and to those perspectives. And so hopefully we at least did it somewhat justice, but more importantly, thank you for taking the time to talk with us, because that's what talking to the community I think is our most valuable resource. Just as members of this community, getting those different perspectives is the only way we're going to grow across the board as a whole, and that extends to Path to Pro and the people who are in charge of Path to Pro as well. So I think keeping those lines of communications open across the board is vital. And so there you go. I guess that's all I had to say on that.
I had one last observation to make, which was specifically the side A, side B format and the branding for cassette tapes is expressly a tribute to Dan, who was a massive music head. And I thought that was a very nice touch. That was really nicely done.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the logo too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's all a tribute to Dan. So I just got chills down my arm as you were talking about that. And I didn't even work with the guy. It's just the overwhelming amount of positive stuff that I've heard about Dan. It was obvious how massive a loss that was.
Yeah.
Not just to the scene, but like just to the world as a whole. I mean, a fellow musician. Like music makes the world go round. Music's the language of the heart. So anyway.
Now we've got to make a transition to the goofy ending of the broadcast, which I don't have a good way of doing, except let's just do it. It's time for the Tier 2 tweet of the week. We gave Jeff a plethora to pick from, and I believe, looking at it, squinting, that's the Frogger tweets. And I got to say, I feel this a lot. Going through a 10-minute thank you to pick a Roadhog. There's got to be something wrong with you, right?
Don't know what's going on mentally, but hope you're okay. Like it's.
I just don't think it's fair. There's road dog players on the bits, and I can't get in.
Wow. Wow.
I think that probably says a lot about you. You're quite right.
But yeah, there you go. There you go. Apologies for all you Roadhog players out there, but
don't apologize
for
me.
No, I was trying to be nice. I was trying to be nice.
No,
that's
there is one permissible Roadhog player, and that is Moose. Yes. That is it. Everybody else can fuck off.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that that wraps it up for us for this week. It was a good episode. It was worth delving into this. Apologies for the tech issues in the middle of that episode. It happens. We do our best to bounce back and get back to you as quickly as we can. A big shout out to Billy, who had to leave early due to some family issues, but we were happy to have him in for the time that we did. And,
one of these days we'll have him for a full episode.
Fingers crossed, my friend. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and just I'm on the roll here, so I'm just going to steal your shout of thinking glitch.
I was waiting to leave you dangling to see if you would do it. So
no. Yeah. I've taken notes from the master here, and now I'm delving out on my own here.
Can you hurry up and do it then?
Thank you to Glitch City for letting us use her remix of the King's Row song. It's awesome. We love it, and we really appreciate you allowing us to use it. Did I miss anything? I think that's what does it. So
that does it.
Thank you, friends, for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, y'all.
End transmission.
Mm-hmm.